All right, welcome back to the program. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our conversation right now. Earlier on, I did tell you that I will still be looking at reopening the economy and what issues, coming up as a result of that. Dr. Franklin Ngwu, an associate professor and an economist with the Lagos Business School, is joining me right now from the Commercial Nerve Center, Lagos, of course. Dr. Ngwu, good to see you today. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nancy, and good morning, Nnaji. I hope you are keeping safe
Yeah.
and you're fine.
Yes, I'm trying to keep safe. Doctor, you know what you do for me? You're going to shift back a bit so that we can get your full picture. Yes. Okay. I think that is a bit manageable. Let's see how that goes. Doctor, speak to me about what's happening in Lagos before I go to before I go to some areas of my questioning. What's happening in Lagos? What exactly is happening? Coronavirus cases in Nigeria, more than 29,000 right now. What's happening?
Lagos is there. We are still the epicenter of coronavirus. The economy has been opened up. People are moving around. They are a bit scared. Some people are scared, some people are not scared. It's challenging, but the economy is moving.
The economy
But of course, because Lagos remains a serious case in the sense of the rate of infection and the death rate, and also how the population density of Lagos in relation to the way the virus spreads. So it's a challenge that we need to look properly.
Okay, now let's come down to business with what you're saying. Is it that we've abandoned lives and we're chasing livelihoods now? Because what you're saying is the economy is reopening and it seems that everybody right now is on your own. OYO, I'm not berating on your states, but to your tent, to Israel, everyone as the economy reopens. So have we abandoned lives and we're all chasing livelihoods?
I would not say 100%, but it is a challenge. Of course, as you know, the COVID presents both health and socioeconomic challenges.
Doctor, if you can hear me, just hold on a bit. I'll need you to adjust your shot because I'm not getting your full picture. We're actually getting half of you. So I will need you to adjust your shot. Okay, better. Okay, so go ahead, Doctor.
So as I said, COVID-19 is both a health challenge and also socioeconomic challenge. So there needs to be a balance between the two. So when we say that we've abandoned lives and we are now chasing the livelihood, somehow it looks true, but somehow it's also what we need to ask first is what did we do before Corona entered Nigeria? What did we do when it entered? And what are we doing now with regards to balancing the issue between life and livelihood? So if we look at it from that perspective, of course, the economy should be opened, but in terms of our capacity and readiness to really open the economy and at the same time making sure that lives are protected and livelihood also go on, I'm not sure we've done that. So that's a big challenge. So it's something that needs to be, of course, nobody is saying we had lockdown, but did we do it well? Now that we're opening the economy, are we even ready in terms of our capacity and readiness to really open the economy? So that's a challenge and a big question that we need to ask.
Is this the right time to open the economy, to reopen, and let alone reopen safely? Because a lot of people have argued also that we did not do what we should have done early at the onset of of the first confirmed case. We closed late. We also lifted the lockdown a bit too early.
No, I think that the economic cannot be closed because it seems that Corona is going to stay for us for some time. So it's not something that will end in 1 month or 2 months and you say, oh, let's close and say after 1 month, the thing disappears. But the way we've opened the economy, it seems that we've had a conversation with Corona and he has told us that it's going to leave in 3 weeks or in 1 month. So we are now saying, let's open the economy, and after 3 weeks, this thing disappears. But in terms of our capacity to open the economy, we've not done that. And if you look across the states in Nigeria, which this opening of the economy means that people can now move around, it means that we are more or less willing and planning that we're opening up other epicenters of coronavirus. So we've had only Lagos, Abuja, and maybe Kano. But now with this opening of the economy, in terms of our capacity and readiness, it seems that we are more or less saying to your tents, O Israel, and livelihood has to go on. So if you look across states in Nigeria, in terms of their testing, we even identify the number of people with coronavirus, it's still, we've done just maybe roughly about 0.1%, or maybe about 0.1%. So the question then is, if you're opening up the economy and we know the way corona spreads, what are we now trying to say? We are now trying to say that more or less you're on your own, because livelihood, the economy has to go on. So it is a challenge that we need to, it's not really about saying, is this the right time to open the economy? The economy should be opened, but have we done what we are supposed to do before we open the economy? And are we doing what we are supposed to do as we're opening the economy? And are we ready with regards to post-COVID, or even as COVID is still with us? Those are critical questions that we need to ask.
Okay.
And those are discussions.
All right. Okay, doctor, let's quickly take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll try as much as possible to dissect what you just raised right now, the 3 dimensions of what you raised. Let's quickly take a break. We'll be right back.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
The nature of this pandemic has very significant impact on public health. No one person, no one individual, no one company can basically rise up against this pandemic.
How quickly are we going to see businesses adapt?
All countries can still change the course of this pandemic.
We must interrogate ourselves after this and say, what lessons have we learned about our healthcare system?
The scale of this is huge.
So there are multiple dimensions of this problem that it requires bold and creative steps in order to resolve. If we need to have a homegrown solution.
This is Moneyline with Nancy, where we keep you up to speed with the economics of the pandemic. Join us on all our social media platforms. Get to interact. All right, so welcome back. In case you're just joining us, Dr. Franklin Ngwu is on the wall. He is the associate professor as well as an economist with Lagos Business School. Doctor, just before the break, you gave me 3, things to ruminate about. Is it me you are even speaking to the authorities, really? Since I'm not part of those, in the space of managing this thing, but at least I'm doing my own bits. Let's quickly start with the first part, which you did talk about. What should we do before we reopen? You said, what should we do before we reopen? What do we do as we reopen? Then what post-COVID-19 management will look like? And you're not seeing that. What do you think we should do as before we? I think the before has been overtaken, or can we still do it as we are reopening?
I think we can still do it. So what I'm trying to point out is that Corona, we had the first case in February. And it started in Lagos, and we got to know that it's going to, we are aware that it's going to spread. And most states didn't really react or prepare as if Corona is going to get to their place. And we are now in June, and most states are still struggling with even having a test center. The isolation centers in most states are not even there. The hospitals in most states are not functioning. The private hospitals are rejecting people. And at the end of the day, when you've opened up the economy, what are you now saying? You're now saying that the spread can continue and anything can happen. So I'll give you a typical example. My uncle in Ngwu got sick last week, and he tried to get to hospital. They took him to about 6 hospitals, and they all rejected him. And finally, he got to Parkland Hospital in Enugu, that is a government hospital. He was outside for about 5 hours before he could get a bed. And there were other people outside as well. So what this means is that if you're sick, whether it's COVID or not COVID, you are not sure of getting anything at all. And if supposing somebody dies, and it happened to my friend as well in Abuja, where they were moving around to get a hospital, and the person finally died. So if we have this kind of scenario, it means that we are not prepared for this opening up of the economy. So what I'm trying to say is that in terms of the capacity of the country and the states to really open up the economy, at the same time protect Nigerians from coronavirus and even other ailments, we've not seen it. So a situation where we've only done maybe, as I said, about 1%, 0.1%, it doesn't show that we've really done what we're supposed to. So in terms of what we are supposed to do, is that there is an urgent call, urgent demand on state governors to quickly sit up and see what they can do in terms of the preparedness of their states to ensure that they protect the people, not only for COVID, but for other ailments. Because it seems that COVID has more or less affected everything we are doing, that once you go to hospital, if you don't have a COVID certificate, then they will not even, if you don't have a COVID test form, they will not even attend to you. But the question is, how quickly can you get a COVID test? So if you're in a situation where many states don't even have a proper testing center, then how do we achieve that? So in essence, if we really say that we want to open the economy, we need to sit back and ask ourselves, what are we supposed to do, and start doing it? The federal government is doing well in terms of reporting, in terms of the briefings that they're providing. But when you now leave the federal government and go down to the states, it is disappointing, it is lamentable.
You know, you've raised a lot of issues which are very salient, and let me go back to the issue which you raised. Even as we combat COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people, Nigerians, will definitely be sick with other ailments, with other diseases. And when they go to the hospitals, they will not have access to services quickly. We've seen even a lot of people dying, people losing their mothers, people losing their sons, their husbands, and all of that. We are not just talking of numbers. These numbers are humans. They are human faces. What do you think that the government should do at this time, both federal and state? Because it seems that that's challenge has not been addressed. We are chasing coronavirus, but a lot of people are dying because when you're sick, you go to the hospitals, the nurses and the doctors will not attend to you. What urgent step can the government take, or perhaps even from the president himself, to be able to tell us that this is a crisis, but in as much as there is a crisis, we shouldn't also forget, other diseases and other diseases that are even curable?
First of all, I think, as I said before, the federal government is trying with regards to their daily regular briefings with regards to COVID. And also the private sector support that is coordinated by the central bank and other people, they're also doing their best. But there seems to be an abdication of responsibility on a part of our state governors in terms of what they're supposed to do. And I think that it is an area that the federal government needs to sit up and call the governors to order and say, guys, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And it also relates to the governance, the structure of governance of Nigeria, whereby there seems to be, we are not even clear in terms of what the federal government is doing and in terms of what state government is doing. And I think that the state governors are now hiding under that vacuum, under that space, to now abdicate what they are supposed to do in their respective states. So with regards to what we're supposed to do now, I think there is also a need to declare a state of emergency in the health sector as well as socio-economic sectors, which we are going to talk later on with regards to in terms of socio-economic impact. But with regards to the health sector, as I said, they have taken us over 4 months to even get ready. Well, we are not yet ready. So I think that Nigerian Governors Forum should first of all call a meeting of the governors and first of all, tell Nigerians that they've not done well, and apologize to Nigerians in terms of their ineffectiveness and poor leadership with regards to managing this COVID-19. And then they will now tell us clearly what they are doing with regards to equipping the medical facilities in the different states in terms of how to ensure that whether you're COVID or you're not COVID, that you're going to get proper medical attention. The way we are going is not good and is lamentable. And as people keep dying from both COVID and non-COVID, we just assume that this is how things are supposed to be. But this is not how things are supposed to be. We are supposed to get better. We are supposed to have, at least in every senatorial zone, a well-equipped medical facility. A situation where politicians, our leaders, when they are sick or when they get this COVID, they run to Lagos, clearly tells that we are not prepared. We have 36 states in Nigeria with federal capital territory, but a situation where many people prefer Lagos, and when they come to Lagos, they go to a private clinic, clearly tells the failure of governance and leadership across the states, particularly our governors.
Now, what does it also say about those that are managing this process or those that are managing the crisis? Is it just about giving us daily briefings, just like you said, that you give them a nod in terms of communicating on a daily basis, answering questions posed by journalists? But the more fundamental part is, the structures itself, which has not been really addressed. What does it say of the management of this process?
I think the management of COVID is not different from the management of Nigeria as a country and as an economy. So it's just a fallout of what we have, which needs a fundamental rethinking, fundamental reform in terms of the way we govern the country. So the federal government assumes too much responsibility in everything, and it clearly does not trickle down to what they're supposed to do. So, for instance, when you do if you do a study with regards to multinationals and small firms, you find out multinationals do more reporting with regards to their CIS activity. But in terms of really acting it, you find out that small firms do better. So if you bring it back to this, what we're discussing now, the federal government needs to know that it is the macro government, but it cannot be effective in the 36 states in Nigeria and a federal capital territory. And that's why I'm saying that there needs to be clear discussion and agreement in terms of what the federal government is supposed to do and what the state government is supposed to do. But currently, the state government is not doing what they're supposed to do. It's complete failure, and as I said before, there's supposed to be an apology from the Nigeria Governors Forum in terms of the way they've handled this situation. See what is going on in Kogi State, see what is going on in Cross River State, see what is going on in other parts of Nigeria. See what I explained about my uncle's experience in Enugu and about my friend's experience in Abuja. And that is how it is all over the country. But the health sector is just one of the sectors. The other sectors are the same thing. So it's something that Nigeria needs to clearly tell the government, both the federal and the state government. We protested about the way Floyd was killed in America. But it's also time where I will tell the federal government and the state government that are kneeling on the neck of Nigerians, and we cannot breathe. They need to do something better. They need to be more serious, more leadership, and more effectiveness in what they are doing. If you look at government, what bank governance indicators in terms of regulatory quality, rule of law, and governance effectiveness, we are performing very badly. And that clearly tells you the situation. If you look at MBS report on poverty, the states are very, very poor in Nigeria. So all of them are connected to even the way we are handling the present COVID crisis.
The question, Doctor, would be, do the states in Nigeria, do they have the capacity to manage this crisis? Because some of them now, I was looking at some of their budgets last week, over 20 states have slashed their budget. Lagos, where you are right now, have even slashed its budget for 2020. I think Lagos had a budget of 1.16 trillion. It has slashed its budget now to about 900 billion naira. Other states, even in the north, almost every state is affected. Some said they are not even going to be paying minimum wage anymore. So realistically speaking, do the states have the capacity to manage this crisis? Or we are also, giving them so much to bear at this point, and they don't have the capacity to bear the burden?
I've talked about this before. There is no state in Nigeria that is not viable. And every state in Nigeria, there is a Ministry of Health. And they all have commissioners of health, permanent secretaries, and health personnel. And there are also people that are willing to help. There are also people professionals that are willing to contribute. So in terms of saying that they don't have the budget, it's not about having the capacity. It's about, one, not prioritizing very well. It's about, two, not having the proper leadership, innovation, creativity to increase the revenue of the different states to ensure that they can achieve what they are going to achieve. So it's not about not having money to do what they're supposed to do. Even the one they have, what are they doing with it? How are they using it to really make sure that they have proper medical centers in different parts of Nigeria? Are you saying that if it's not possible to have well-equipped medical center in every senatorial zone in Nigeria? I don't really agree. When oil price was high, they had very high allocation. When oil price is down, they're also receiving very good allocation. In addition, they have IGR, which they can actually expand very well and be able to fund it and build properly equipped medical center. And the question then is, how much is it even to equip a proper medical center in Nigeria? It's not expensive. So if the state governors are serious in terms of what they're supposed to do for their state, there is no state government that cannot build well-equipped medical center in their different states.
Do you think that they will come to that realization right now, especially as the world is still reeling from those lockdowns? We're not, though we're seeing gradual movement into some countries, but some countries have said everyone should just stay on their own. They're managing the crisis. Check out what's happening in the US. We have 11.6 million plus cases right now of coronavirus globally. Do you think that this is a wake-up call for the governors, even as some of them begin to test positive?
I think, as I said before, somebody earlier said that if not because of the calamities, that Corona has a positive impact. That is more or less telling us to sit back and rethink the country and rethink the way we do things. So I think that it's time for we Nigerians, leaders of thought, and other people that are concerned about this country, it's time for people to speak out and say, we need to do things differently. And as I keep explaining, there is no state in Nigeria that cannot equip a proper medical center. So I think it is time we have to continue talking, we have to continue encouraging the governors and say, you can do a lot better than this. And I think that they will listen and they need to do something better. Let me just explain something which I've explained many times. When we say that the government don't have the money to do certain things, remember that the governors are like the CEOs of their different states. So we are talking about a CEO that is giving money from somewhere that they didn't work for every month in terms of federal allocation. We're also talking about a CEO that has IGR every month in his state. We're also talking about a CEO that has immense potential in terms of their different state resources to really do what they're supposed to do. And when you have this kind of situation and are not doing what they're supposed to do, it is required that Nigerians of all walks of life should clearly tell them that they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they should sit up and do the right thing. So supposing a state in Nigeria is a firm, in a year, you don't pay any dividend. If you do it for 3 years, what will the shareholders do to you? They will clearly show that you are not effective in your work. You clearly show that you're not supposed to have the job. So it's also time for us to say that for you to be a governor in Nigeria, that you should actually have managed somewhere to show that you can actually lead people. And we should also say that it is time for you to be president, for you to be governor. After being a governor, that there's no other position for you to actually assume, or for you to even assume that a higher position, you should actually have moved your IGR by about 100%. The reason why I'm saying this is that we find out that most of the time when people become governors, the next thing is that they will start thinking about how would they become senators or how they become presidents. So they become to have inordinate ambitions, which will even distract them from effective governance of their states. So these are questions that we are supposed to have and to address to ensure that we have a better country than what we have at the moment.
The question there is, how do we begin to ask these questions? Or are Nigerians not asking enough questions? Or are we being taken for granted? That is the issue. What you've also raised goes to the political process, the political selection in the country, which I really don't want to delve into right now. You know, because if you're seeing what's happening, the quality of those in governance or those at the leadership positions in Nigeria also calls for question. So do you think that with all of this, especially as the pandemic is you know, ravaging not just Nigeria, but the rest of Africa and the world, are Nigerians asking, are we waking up as Nigerians to say perhaps enough is enough of this? Let's begin to ask the right questions and demand accountability from our leaders across board.
I think that the consciousness is increasing. I think that it will continue to increase. But it's also very important that Nigerians from all walks of life should also join. So for instance, Nigerian Bar Association is opposed to another professional association to actually contribute and say certain things need to be properly done. So you remember that last 2 weeks or last week, the vice president said that the cost of governance, he agreed that about some weeks ago, that the cost of governance in Nigeria is very, very high, and that the discussion should be held. And we're talking about the vice president of Nigeria saying that the discussion should be held. Also, Ndume in the Senate also agreed that the cost of governance is very high. So the question is, if this is coming from the vice president, the next thing is, what is he doing to ensure that this discussion is properly heard? It's not just about saying that this has been heard, that this should be heard, but in terms of taking concrete actions to achieve this. I was reading an article, somebody said a Russian report has actually outlived, it did not really solve our problem. So if the federal government, you asked me in terms of across board, if the federal government wants to do what they're supposed to do, they're supposed to sit back and say, how do we change what we are doing? So if you notice, for example, we've been borrowing money right from 2015. And Minister of Finance, hello?
Yes, I'm with you, Doctor. Go ahead.
And the Minister of Finance said that we have to continue to borrow because of the challenges that we have. So the question is, what is the plan with regards to reducing the cost of governance? What is the plan with regards to post-COVID? What is the plan in terms of collaboration between the state and federal government to really increase the revenue so that we can actually start paying the debt that we have? So I am thinking that across board, even if the federal government cannot do it, the state governors can come together under Nigerian Governors Forum and say, federal government, we need to rethink what we are doing in terms of the structure of governance in Nigeria. But if the federal government can actually lead by example and clearly make out clear statements or clear guidelines in terms of how they will reduce the cost of governance in Nigeria, I think that the state government and the local government will also take cue from them.
Like I said earlier, I don't want to go into the political economy of this, because in Nigeria, you see that the governors are powerful governors. These are governors that may decide who the next president is, or who out of them would be the next president. You understand what I mean? So I really don't want to go into that. Perhaps I will discuss political economy of all this on a later date because it would transcend more than one show. But let's take a look at the socio-economic effects of this. Now, flights will resume this week. Some other sectors of the economy would also likely resume, but of course, I think the curfew still stands. Interstate ban has been, interstate travel ban has been lifted. How do you see this impacting the economy, you know, on a wider basis?
As I said earlier on, the economy needs to open, because we cannot just lock up the economy because we don't know when Corona will disappear. But so opening up the economy is good. But as I said, we need to properly and quickly rethink how prepared we are, and then upscale in terms of managing life as well, with regards to the health implications of opening up of the economy. But another thing that we also have to look at is that the opening up of the economy and the economic sustainability plan of the federal government, that when we look at them together, we can now start saying, is this the right thing to do? The economic sustainability plan, would it really guarantee post-COVID survival of the country and the states? And going through the economic sustainability plan, the answer is not really, in terms of the content, in terms of the way it's being planned, and in terms of the way it's supposed to be executed. So opening up of the economy is good, but I think that in terms of economic sustainability plan, we need to do more to address the situation. So a
Okay.
typical example, that the agriculture, for example, is about 600 billion. And they say that every state should provide about 20,000 or 100,000 hectares for farming. But they've not told us what is going to be farmed and how they're going to do it. So more details are required to ensure that the opening up of the economy in collaboration or in partnership with other factors like economic sustainability plan will really ensure that Nigeria becomes sustainable post-COVID.
The other question is, how do we avoid a spike in cases even as the economy reopens? Over 29,000 cases right now, and how many tests have we done, really? I'm not sure, not up to 200,000 cases. My guest yesterday, Johnson Chukwu, did say that, let's say we're doing many tests, we'll definitely have more than this figure that we're having right now. So how do we reopen the economy safely amid the spike in coronavirus cases?
I think that few things need to be done, and they need to be done quickly. So you find out that if you look at New Zealand achieved what they achieved because there is trust in government, and people believed in what the government is doing, and they partnered with the government and observed all the protocols and all the guidelines. So the question then in Nigeria is, why is that there's still, even with over 3 months of coronavirus, the level of skepticism in Nigeria is still very, very high. Many people, even in Lagos, do not even believe that there's anything like coronavirus. So that's a challenge. And when you ask them why, they normally tell you that they've not seen anybody that died of coronavirus. They don't know their names, and it hasn't really affected them. And that tells you that people don't really believe in government. There's a trust deficit. So there's a need for continuous increased awareness, engagement with the general public, and this should be done, as I earlier explained, by religious leaders, public leaders, and all people in any form of authority, both social, civil, and formal authorities, so that people will clearly understand that coronavirus is real. In addition to that, in different states and local governments in Nigeria, there is a need to quickly equip medical centers so that both the isolation center and even the non-COVID cases can be properly treated. Because of course, corona kills more people with underlying ailments. So if people are sick, it means that the likelihood of getting infected with corona will be high. So if we're able to have that, that means that we're able to now start addressing some of the challenges. In addition to that, I think that there's nothing wrong with the federal government, state government, and local government ensuring that they provide face masks for Nigerians. As if they provided palliatives, they provided support, they should also provide face masks so that people can actually use it and actually ensure that it is being enforced as well. So that people can actually understand that this is a challenge and they need to also take some personal responsibility to addressing the challenge.
Doctor, let me get your own view on what you've just talked about, the trust deficit. And I raised it with Johnson Chukwu yesterday, the Chief Executive Officer at Carry Asset Management. I did ask him about this trust deficit and why, even with all the information that is going on, I don't think at least majority of people in Nigeria understands or know that there is a disease called coronavirus. But they seemingly are not taking that strict adherence to the protocol. How should this trust deficit thing be addressed? Because that is also where the problem is. You started this conversation saying that a lot of people in Lagos had not even, they are skeptical. I said it on the show yesterday. Some people would tell me, Nancy, please, there's no coronavirus. I will start educating again. You see what TV stations, radio stations, media has been doing. A lot of us have abandoned our normal schedules and we, informing the public about this. But still, Nigerians are still skeptical. What's the same question I asked Johnson? Let me have your own view. Is there a strategy that we can use? When I mean we, all of us are inside too, both the government, state, local, central. Is there a strategy that can be used that can turn this corner and people will start adhering to safety protocols? Because it seems, just like you said, people will say, I don't know anyone that has died of coronavirus,
I think that there are a few things that can be done. One is that, as I said, the federal government is providing communication. But how many states are providing the same level of communication as the federal government? How many local governments are providing communication as the federal government? And of course, when we say that media houses, newspapers are providing the communication, the question then is, how many Nigerians watch television? How many Nigerians read newspaper? So in terms of, and secondly, Nigerians is a bit hierarchical. So if the leader is behaving well, it means that the followers will likely look up to you and say, we will also behave well. So there is a trust deficit because the government in the past, they've not been transparent, they've not been sincere, and people don't believe, do not perceive them as doing what they say. So that kind of situation will continue to erode the trust we have in Nigeria. But if, for instance, there is an increased sincerity and transparency on the part of government, especially state government and local governments, and then of course, these are the grassroots. People will now start believing more, people will now start agreeing more, but also, it's also very important that we take into consideration the peculiarities of Nigeria. So if, for instance, you say social distancing, and a situation where the per square meter that you're supposed to maintain, like you say, maybe 3 meters as the case may be, and all that. Some places, for you to do that, you have to relocate majority of the people that stay in that kind of environment. So what we are supposed to do is to really use all the relevant organs, relevant leaders, communities association, and all that, to really clearly explain to Nigerians, in terms of our actions and inactions, that we are sincere with other things that we do, not just about Corona, but with regards to every aspect of our government. So that is some of the things that we are supposed to do to really address some of this trust deficit. So a situation where government do certain things, and it is clear that the government is not very sincere and transparent in this, and people observe it, it will trickle down. So when you now talk about the issue of Corona, they will not believe you. So that is some of the issues that we need to do in terms of our government, in terms of our infrastructure, in terms of the way we distribute resources, in terms of the way we make appointments, in terms of the way we even make policies. Let there be clear transparency, accountability, and sincerity in the way we do things. And gradually people will start believing the government.
Doctor, are you concerned or afraid that Nigeria, the way we are going, with low compliance to guidelines, with low public trust, with low testing capacity, we're not seeing enough from our state governors or state government, do you see Nigeria becoming some sort of an epicenter?
I am very, very scared, and that is why I've been emphasizing on the role of state governors. And if going by the way we are, from what we are doing at the moment, and the way the cases are increasing, even if we continue with the way the things are going, it means that in no distant time we'll be looking at about 100-something thousand cases. And as we're even talking this now, it means that, as I said before, with the relaxation, particularly of interstate lockdown, it means that other epicenters will start emerging. And maybe every state might likely become an epicenter because people will not start moving around and all that. I think that the low rate that we have now, will not really be the case with the way we've relaxed the economy, interstate lockdown, and all that. So if we're talking about the state government, for example, just imagine, has there been any discussion or any action in local governments with regards to this issue? Most local governments, all they've done is to just share a few cartons of Indomie to the people, and that is it. In my own local government, nothing much is being done or talked about COVID-19. And that is how it is in almost all local governments in Nigeria. So if we are able to, if we are going to address some of these issues, I said that all levers of government and a critical private sector and non-governmental organizations must be on deck to address some of these situations.
Okay. Is that a kind of pressure that the private sector, because we also have to an extent a very vibrant private sector in Nigeria, see what they're doing, the COVID part, the NNPC and its partners and what have you. Is there a way that the private sector can also, I don't want to say twist the hand of government across board, but be able to partner with them, because we also see what happens across the world, whereby the private sector even dictates the pace of what would happen in the political system. So should this also be a wake-up call for the private sector to come alive, apart from those perhaps romancing those in government for their own private pockets?
I think that the private sector is trying, as you mentioned, COVID, for example, and other initiatives of the private sector. But I think that they are trying, but it needs to increase. They need to increase their voice, they need to increase their engagement, they need to also increase their counsel or criticism of the government by clearly saying certain things are wrong and you need to do it better. And it's also very important that the government and the private sector, and so it's also very important that the private sector will tell the government that we are not saying this thing because we don't like you or we hate you, as the case may be, but we are saying this because we love you and we want the economy to do better. So, and as I said earlier on, the professional associations, like Nigerian Bar Association and other professional associations, should also aid their view and contribute, and also tell the government they're not doing the right thing with regards to what is going on. So it's a good example in the structure of governance. It is important that we hear from professional associations like MBA, as I said before, because the structure of governance clearly shows that the way we are going, we're just walking into more crisis, more crisis, more crisis. So I think that this kind of engagement, the private sector should increase, and we should be clear and firm and direct by telling the government that they should do things better.
Okay. Final question, Doctor. Let's come to the stimulus, the economic bailout package, 2.3 trillion naira. Out of that 2.3 trillion naira, over 1 trillion of it is coming from the monetary authorities. Do you think that this bailout package is enough? Because all sectors seem to be, want to fleece on this economic bailout. The aviation sector, almost all sectors want to be part of this. Is it going to be enough for us to be able to turn the corner?
Yeah, I think it's important that we understand first that even before COVID-19, just as COVID-19 kills more people with underlying ailments, Nigeria has been a kind of a typical COVID case. We've had underlying challenges and problems facing us before COVID-19. So COVID-19 more or less exposed our precarious situation more. So with regards to the economic stimulus package of 2.3 trillion, it's in terms of the scenarios, it seems to be the best scenario. But what we are supposed to ask is it enough? And the question is not enough. But the answer we are supposed to ask is in terms of where the money is coming from. And is this where the money is supposed to come from? And are we prepared, or are we even preparing the economy to be more resilient, to be more sustainable, even post-COVID?
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier on.
Okay, Doctor, I think we just need to leave it there because our time is fast spent. It's already at 12 p.m. So I want to say many thanks for joining us as always. Thank you for your perspectives, and I hope that the state governors are hearing, and what is enough for the wise. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.